He claims he met 3 of the 9/11 hijackers in Shreveport a year before the attacks. This morning, local dentist David Graham is dead after the family says he was poisoned more than 2 years ago. At the time, Graham was trying to publish a manuscript about meeting 3 Middle Easterners in Shreveport. He feared they were plotting to bomb Barksdale. Graham wrote that he warned the FBI. Then after 9/11, he saw their pictures among the hijackers.
Dr. David Graham had alerted Representative Congressman Jim McCreary, who in turn gave the information over to a member of the Joint Select Committee on Intelligence, Saxby Chambliss. Graham was detailing the fact that he contacted the FBI about 3 men, who would later become 9/11 hijackers, that Graham had observed planning terrorism 10 months prior to 9/11.
Muslim, Arab type fellows, and what you're about to hear is very disturbing, and I hope it gets to the Intelligence Committee. It's going to be, the Senate's going to be, I believe, hearing all the reports of some ways that we can improve the handling of 9/11-01, should it happen again, something of that nature.
Representative Chambliss wrote back to Graham that he had given the information to Chairman of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, Porter Goss. In the fall of 2000, Dr. Graham inadvertently met the future 9/11 hijackers in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Well, I'm sitting in front of Nawaf al-Hazmi, and the picture I saw after 9/11 in USA Today is the same look he gave me and stared at me like this for about 10 minutes. I mean, his eyes were piercing right through me, no smile, no crack of anything. You might want to focus in on this picture. Now, he was clean shaven when I saw him. This fellow right here, Nawaf al-Hazmi. This appeared October 5th, 2001 in USA Today. And trust me, that is the guy I was looking at 3521 Eastwood Drive in Mohammed Jamal Khan's apartment. It was definitely the same man.
Graham made a video will to detail his story and provide his evidence, for he speculated that he was not going to be taken seriously by Porter Goss for his whistleblowing. He feared for his life after clandestinely recording himself and a Pakistani man, Jamal Khan, who Graham claimed hosted 3 of the 9/11 hijackers.
Before Graham was poisoned, he was supposed to testify at a deportation hearing against a Pakistani man, Jamad Khan, who hosted the men Graham believed to be the hijackers.
Khan was from an area of Pakistan in the north, known to be very sympathetic to bin Laden, and also where many believe bin Laden was hiding. Graham provided all the evidence for his story in the video.
And I got a map, and I saw where Karachi was down on the coast. When I talked to Jamal the next day, I said, Jamal, I said, is your family, is your father, is this place down on the coastline? I love the big boats. I like to go out on those big boats. He said, oh, no. My father's place is up by the China Wall. And he said it's up by the China Wall over by Russia. So this little yellow spot I've outlined here, there's some little cities up there I'd like to mention that are possibly significant to where maybe bin Laden could be hiding, and that's what Agent Spoon, after 9/11, indicated to me.
Graham initially feared a truck bombing on Barksdale Air Force Base due to the suspicious red flags he was observing with men he remotely associated with. Graham reported to both a Shreveport FBI agent and a U.S. Secret Service agent the information almost a year before 9/11. Within the Graham report, a book David wrote detailing his story so that the public would know this scandal. He details and provides the dated and certified documents that the FBI had names of 2 9/11 ringleaders, Nawaf al-Hazmi and Khalid al-Mihdhar.
But in terms of 9/11, in terms of them going after somebody in the Bible Belt who, was a conservative, Christian, megachurch, evangelical, I mean, that's really desperate that they have to kill somebody like that. But he was on the verge of publishing a book, and his book was going to talk about this 4-year ordeal that he had when he met Nawaf al-Hazmi and had an association with somebody who knew Khalid al-Mihdhar. And al-Mihdhar and al-Hazmi, we know now, according to the 9/11 Commission report and others, were 2 of the lead hijackers. It wasn't just about Mohammed Atta. It was about these two guys. We know now that they were most likely agents of Saudi intelligence.
Graham's 9/11 report was never published. Graham's story is not detailed at all in the 9/11 Commission report. Why did Porter Goss ignore Graham while sitting on the Intelligence Committee? Two of the three hijackers Graham met were living openly and even applied for driver's licenses using their actual identities in San Diego, while both of their identities were on terror watch lists for having attended a major Al-Qaeda meeting just prior. They were listed as Al-Qaeda operatives.
A closer look now at criticism of the U.S. intelligence community. In the current issue of Newsweek magazine, writer Michael Isikoff reports that the CIA was actively tracking two of the suspected September 11th hijackers and even trailed those men pictured here to an Al-Qaeda summit in Malaysia.
The CIA knew who they were. They knew that they were suspected Al-Qaeda operatives, and they failed to alert the INS, the State Department, the Customs Service, agencies that could have kept them out of the country, and perhaps more importantly, they failed to alert the FBI, which could have tracked them while they were in the country. What's stunning is that from that moment on, they lived entirely out in the open. They opened up bank accounts, they got a California driver's license, they opened up credit cards, and they intersected with at least 5 other of the hijackers on September 11th. This is probably the biggest intelligence failure surrounding the events of September 11th of all.
In September of 2000, they moved in with an FBI informant, Abdul Sadr Sheikh. Abdul Sadr was working closely with the FBI on terror cases.
CBS's Jim Stewart has new information tonight about a tense standoff between the widely criticized FBI and Congress over a witness.
A congressional committee investigating the September the 11th hijackings met behind closed doors today to hash out what appears to be an increasingly ugly confrontation with the FBI. At issue is the testimony of an FBI informant who apparently played landlord to 2 of the 9/11 hijackers and never informed his case agent of the renters until after the attacks. The 2 hijackers, Nawaf al-Hamzi and Khalid al-Damar, were the only members of the group to enter the U.S. through the West Coast. For several months, they lived in this San Diego residence where their landlord was this man, identified as Abdul Sadr Sheikh, a prominent San Diego Muslim leader.
But just before heading to California, Nawaf al-Hazmi and Khalid al-Midar were being actively tracked by the CIA.
NBC News in depth tonight. Could the September 11th attacks on America have been prevented? We're now just 2 days away from the release of the final report of the commission investigating those attacks. The report will not say the attacks could have been prevented by either the Clinton or Bush administrations, in part because the commission wants to avoid partisan fighting over its report in this election year.
That day, it seemed sudden and without warning. But 3 years and 2 investigations later, it's clear there was a tragic trail of missed opportunities to stop some of the hijackers, disrupt the plot, and perhaps save 3,000 lives. The Malaysia meeting. January 2000, top Al-Qaeda operatives converge on Kuala Lumpur for a planning meeting that includes these 2 hijackers. The first time a hijacker comes on the radar of American intelligence.
The intelligence agencies also had electronic intercepts. The NSA monitors 2 million communications every hour. Telephone calls, faxes, emails, including, we now know, critical clues about the hijackers, like their meeting in Malaysia.
It was actionable information. And what's clear to me as a former intelligence officer is that somebody in Washington dropped the ball. Whether it was FBI or CIA is to be determined.
It's one of these critical nodes where we could have disrupted the 9/11 plot well before it ever got off the ground.
The calls. Once in the U.S., that hijacker gets up to a dozen calls from this known Al-Qaeda switchboard in Yemen. The NSA is listening, but doesn't figure out that the calls are to someone inside the U.S. The search. In late August, the CIA finally tells the FBI 2 hijackers may be in the country, but the FBI can't find them, even though they're listed in the San Diego phone book. The watch lists. The two hijackers are finally watch listed, but never put on the FAA's no-fly list. Up a back stairwell to the 4th floor of the Capitol, behind closed doors, Congressional Intelligence Committees meeting in a special soundproof room today began sifting through the debris of 9/11. Sources say some 200 interviews and 100,000 pages of documents reviewed so far reveal even more dropped balls by both the CIA and FBI than is now publicly known. The most critical dropped ball, investigators say, is that the CIA identified two of the hijackers as terrorists a year and a half before the attacks, Khalid al-Midhar and Nawaf al-Hamzi, knew they were headed to this country and did almost nothing until it was too late. Sources tell NBC News the FBI has developed a series of charts for congressional investigators to show that had there been follow-up, al-Hamzi and al-Midhar would have led them directly to 5 other hijackers, and by connecting the dots to everyone else, including ringleader Mohammed Atta.
And it was largely due to the fact that these two men, al-Hazmi and al-Midhar, were living with the FBI's informant, Abdussatter Sheikh. Sheikh was identified in wire reports as a retired professor of English at San Diego State. He was also listed as Vice President of International Projects at the American Commonwealth University. The problem is, Sheikh never taught at San Diego State. He never taught English at all. He possessed a phony PhD from a bogus diploma mill with U.S. military and intelligence connections out of Florida. American Commonwealth University doesn't exist. And it's merely a mail drop, which was previously named William Lyon University. And William Lyon University was founded by the retired Air Force General William Lyon. And Lyon was chairman of the GOP's Team California Victory 2004. And he was a member of the Orange County's new majority big wheel Republican network that helped get Arnold Schwarzenegger elected. What is Abdussatter Sheikh, a man housing the future 9/11 hijackers, doing with false identities provided to him by U.S. government officials, connected to top-level GOP officials in California? Many wonder why this was. Omar al-Boyami is said to be a Saudi intelligence officer of the GID, the General Intelligence Directorate. The GID is the Saudi Arabian equivalent to the CIA. He was the man who picked up the two hijackers, Khalid al-Midhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi, from LAX. What is a Saudi Arabian intelligence agent working at the Saudi Arabian embassy in Los Angeles doing, picking up two future 9/11 hijackers and then sending them to an FBI informant?
Now, if we could go back to Senator Bob Graham, he brought out a book right around the time that he was retiring called Intelligence Matters. He still was trying to do a good job talking about the protection of these 9/11 hijackers in the U.S. And the certain Saudis connected to the Saudi embassy in L.A. who, and specifically a guy named Bayoumi and another guy, these two Saudis were closely connected to the Saudi embassy in LA. So when Nawaf al-Hazmi and Khalid al-Midhar come to this country, they go to LA, they happen to meet these guys, and even Graham says it's not a coincidence, they happen to meet these guys. These guys are protective, they say, come live in San Diego, you'll like it better. And we only know about this, I think, from a leak. I think like somebody happened to leak it to us, because the FBI was extremely embarrassed that this came out. It looks like extreme incompetence. Well, that's what they argue it is, but really it's obviously something more. It's obviously part of this pattern of federal protection that the 9/11 hijackers were given. His book is so good on the first couple of steps of showing federal protection of the 9/11 hijackers. How does this jibe with Able Danger? Because this is a whole other topic. Able Danger is this military intelligence operation that almost stopped al-Qaeda in early winter 2000, and yet they were stopped by Pentagon top brass, higher-ups, high above, supervising this military intelligence operation. Able Danger protected these 9/11 hijackers, claimed that you can't spy on U.S. citizens. It's like, wait a minute, these guys weren't U.S. citizens, they were Saudi citizens. Since when are Saudi citizens U.S. citizens? Since when are Saudi agents of intelligence given these rights?